before Loki, before Thor, before Odin, before all the Norse gods, there was only ice and fire.
A song of ice and fire.
Best season ever!
And because even ice and fire need some loving from time to time, fire eventually melted ice's icy heart, because fire was smooth with it. And from the melted ice droplets, the first being was born, a giant bigger than anything you could imagine, so big that it was simply huge.
It's bigger than that, Chris. It's large.
That giant was Ymir, and Ymir was all alone, living in the nothingness that existed between ice and fire, until a giant cow was born. What, you didn't expect a giant cow out of nowhere? This cow was Audumla, and this cow equaled Ymir in size, and its milk provided food and drink for Ymir, while the cow itself licked the ice and liquid from frozen rocks, and from those licks it created the first god, Buri. Even the cow knew that everything starts with a good licking. So the first three beings were born, and above the heat of the eternal fire, Ymir was sweating, and his sweat created another three beings, the Jötnar. And yes, the mythological texts say sweat the beings were born out of, but we all know it wasn't really sweat. It was a bee and a flower, who, since they came from a giant, we still call giants to this day. Although they're not more or less giant than Buri, the first god, but we had Ymir, a cow, a god, and three giants. Sounds like the beginning of a walked into a bar joke, but it was actually the beginning of Norse mythology. And if you've been waiting for Odin to make an appearance, he enters the story right now. Buri, the first god, had a son with one of Ymir's daughters called Bor, and Bor in turn got freaky with another giantess and had three sons of his own. Those sons were Odin and his brothers Vili and Ve. But think of Vili and Ve as like the other members of Destiny's Child. Background noise. Irrelevant. Replaceable. Forgettable. Despite the fact that the three brothers were half god, half giant, they decided that they were gods. And because identity was already something to get fanatical about back then, Odin and his bros decided to commit the cosmos' first genocide. To be fair, it was only like a handful of beings at the time. They started with Ymir and literally gutted my man. And my man was so giant that his blood created the first oceans and drowned every other being, including Odin's parents, granddad, everyone. And so the three brothers did not just commit the world's first genocide, they also committed the world's first patricide and matricide and grandfather's side. Then Odin and his brothers decided that it was time to start a new class, because right after committing the first genocide seems like the best time to invent classism. So they made one of the realms their home, called it Asgard, and called themselves the Aesir gods. Yes, Asgardians is only a name used by Marvel and by dirty movies, like the one I rented the other night. No, think about it, take a moment, give it like a hyphen or a space, and you'll see it's not just a dirty joke, it's complex. The Aesir distinction was important because the Aesir gods believed themselves superior to all other beings that follow, including the Vanir gods, which I'll do a video of another time. But at the time, there was only the Aesir and Asgards and the evil they created. Because two grandsons of Ymir survived, two giants survived the genocide, and they fled to Jotunheim and made it their home, where they became better known as the Jötnar, the enemies of the gods. Everyone came from a giant, but now the classes were set, the distinctions were clear. Aesir and Vanir gods, the Jötnar, the giants, and soon dwarves, elves, and humans. But I will go in detail on the other realms in part 2 of my Norse origin story. Also, tomorrow, April 14th, I will do a live stream on my Patreon for all subscribers where we'll just hang out and talk about anything you want. So make sure to tune in, and on my Patreon you also get an exclusive video every week, and you get all the artwork from all my videos to download and keep. So check it out from the link in the bio, and maybe I'll see you in a live stream tomorrow, Saturday, April the 14th. Alright? Alright.